Step into a medieval marketplace for just a moment. The air is thick with blood, smoke, and sweat. No fridges, no freezers. Just carcasses hanging under the blazing sun, fighting off rot for as long as possible. And yet people bought it, cooked it, and lived on it. How? What tricks did medieval butchers know that let them cheat decay, the invisible killer hiding in every cut of meat? Eating meat back then wasn't just about flavor, it was gambling with your life. Meat was both a luxury and a danger. Nobles feasted on it, townsfolk craved it, and peasants stretched to buy even scraps. But everyone knew the truth. Fresh flesh spoiled fast. Leave beef out for a few hours in the summer heat, and it could turn deadly. Rotten meat carried parasites and disease, threatening not just one unlucky eater but whole communities. Shoppers poked, sniffed, and squinted, praying their butcher was trustworthy. For the poor, it was worse. They often had to gamble on cuts already turning grey. So how did medieval butchers fight the clock? Their first weapon wasn't fancy, it was speed. Animals were slaughtered at dawn, and meat hit the stalls within hours. No stockpiles, no coolers, just an immediate rush from life to plate. Families bought what they could eat that very day, no more. By nightfall, leftovers were a dangerous luxury. The bleating of goats or squealing of pigs in the morning meant one thing: dinner was on the way. Speed was survival. But speed alone wasn't enough. Salt, the medieval world's ultimate weapon. More valuable than gold in some places, salt was taxed, hoarded, and fought over. When rubbed into meat or soaked as brine, it drew out moisture, starving bacteria of what they needed to thrive. Salted pork and beef were tough, leathery, and often needed soaking before cooking, but they could last for months. Soldiers marched with barrels of it. Sailors lived on it. For ordinary households, salted meat was a lifeline through harsh winters. Without salt, survival was nearly impossible. Then came smoke fire turned into preservation. Butchers and families hung cuts of meat above smouldering wood, watching them shrink, toughen, and transform. Smoke carried antimicrobial power, sealing meat for months. Oak and beech added flavour, turning survival into tradition. Whole villages had smokehouses, their roofs blackened from constant fires. From smoky huts came hams, sausages, and fish that fed Europe. Smoked meat wasn't perfect, it was chewy and salty, but it tasted like endurance itself. And yet, even salt and smoke had their limits. What then? When salt and smoke couldn't do the job, people got creative. Vinegar and wine became liquid shields. Cuts of meat soaked in sour or boozy baths slowed decay and softened tough flesh. The wealthy took it further, layering exotic spices like pepper, ginger, and cloves, imported for the price of silver. These flavors didn't just mask rot, they screamed status. Serving spiced meat meant you had money, connections, and power. For peasants, humble herbs like garlic or thyme offered a cheaper illusion of freshness, but sometimes nature itself stepped in. In northern and eastern Europe, winter was the best refrigerator. Carcasses froze solid in the open air, hanging like stone until thawed for use. Wealthy estates even carved blocks of ice from rivers and stored them in straw-packed ice houses, primitive freezers that lasted into spring. For ordinary villagers, the brutal cold was both curse and blessing. It starved them, but it also saved their food. Yet when spring returned, rot always came back with it. Medieval cities knew meat wasn't just a private matter, it was public safety. City councils banned spoiled flesh and sent inspectors, called meat viewers, to patrol markets. Guilds policed their own members, punishing cheats with fines, humiliation, or even loss of their trade license. Chronicles describe riots when townsfolk suspected corruption. One rotten cut could spark chaos. Laws became another form of preservation, not of the meat itself, but of the fragile trust that kept medieval cities from falling into sickness and rebellion. Still, preservation often failed, especially for the poor. Unable to buy fresh cuts or expensive spices, they sometimes settled for grey, sour-smelling meat. Heavy stews and pungent sauces tried to hide the truth, but stomach cramps and fevers followed. Whole villages could fall sick after a feast of tainted meat. Hunger forced people to choose between starvation and poison. For the lower classes, Every meal was a reminder. Survival wasn't about taste. It was about enduring decay itself. But here's the twist. The battle against rot shaped more than diets, it shaped culture. Salted pork, smoked fish, spiced sausages. Winter feasts, they all survive on our plates today. Food safety laws echo medieval ordinances. Our obsession with expiration dates is centuries old. Walk into a supermarket, see bacon, ham, or wine-cooked stews, and you're tasting echoes of their struggle. Every bite is a quiet victory over time, rot, and death itself. Medieval butchers didn't just sell meat. They taught us how to fight, decay, and win. Imagine buying meat in a medieval town square. You didn't take it home to stash for a week. You cooked it that night, because by sunrise it could turn toxic. Recipes reflected that urgency: fast boiling, quick roasting, or stewing to kill off danger. Markets weren't built for storage but for speed, with sellers shouting to push every cut before the day's heat spoiled it. Survival meant acting fast, not saving for later. But preservation wasn't just about food. It was about identity. Salted meat meant resilience. Smoked hams meant strength. Spiced dishes meant wealth. Even winter's ice became a cultural marker, shaping traditions of feasts and fasts. Every method carried a meaning beyond survival. The way you kept your food fresh said something about who you were. And while these methods worked, they also revealed the stark divide between rich and poor. Butchers themselves lived under pressure. Their reputation meant everything. One slip, a bad cut, a spoiled sale, and trust was gone. Guilds kept them in check, but so did gossip. Word of mouth could make or break a stall. Many butchers developed rituals of trust, slaughtering in sight of buyers, letting customers touch or smell the cuts. In a world without refrigeration, reputation was as important as salt. And yet, despite all this effort, salt, smoke, laws, trust, people still died from bad meat. Chronicles mention feasts that ended in sickness, villages weakened by foodborne illness, even nobles poisoned by luxury gone wrong. For medieval families, every meal was a gamble. Do you risk it? Or do you go hungry? Hunger almost always won, but this daily battle against rot laid the groundwork for something greater. Today, we open a fridge and never think twice. Cold shelves hum, expiration dates guide us, supermarkets overflow. But look closer. Every slice of bacon, every smoked ham, every salted fish is a direct line to the Middle Ages. Medieval butchers didn't just feed their people, they forged traditions that still sit on our tables. Their fight with rot-shaped culture, law, and even taste itself. So, next time you bite into smoky bacon, remember, you're chewing on history's greatest survival trick.